Welcome to the latest episode of For the Record, the show where we dig into the magic, the mayhem, and the meaning behind music. I'm Jeff, the artist manager guy, founder and artist manager at AED Artist Management.
And I'm Dan, founder of Evoke Sounds, producer guy.
Awesome. Great to have everyone listening in. Today we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about the music, artists that are shaping the world today, and a bit of news along the way. To start things off, Dan, who walked through the Evoke Studio doors this week?
Wow, it was a busy week. Today we had Renee Naccari here, we had Mattia Marks here, we had Sasha Miller here.
Tell me about the Renee Naccari project. I hear you're working on something very special with her without giving too much away.
Yeah, Renee Naccari, she's come in this week for a personal project.
Lovely. Sasha Miller, we touched on in our last chat.
Yeah.
So you and Nev worked with her over the last 6 months to a year or longer?
No, it's actually less. It's basically since August, so about 4 months.
So end result of that was 3 tracks. They're going to form a 3-track EP.
Yeah,
we've settled on some dates for 2026 for those releases.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about those tracks and the creative process behind them, who you got into the studio to work on those tracks?
Yeah, good question. So we started with, I guess, 3 ideas that Sasha had, which we shaped into 3 tracks of 3 different sort of performance styles. So one is a very sort of unique take on the soul genre. I guess trying to carve out our own sub genre.
You love a good sub genre.
Yeah, the second one was an idea she had, which kind of had elements of all kinds of genres, and we have taken it in a disco direction. So,
wow.
Yeah, look out for a bit of a disco revival there. The third one, we actually stripped back. So rather than a full production, we took it to a sort of live setting and did a very sort of performative approach where we recorded the song and shot the music video as one single take, one pass, one shot. And I think it's come out amazing. It's actually the reference track, something quite obscure compared to Sasha Miller. It's Tom Waits' Blue Valentine.
That is very different than what you've been talking about.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. And I guess what we've aimed to do is show different colors of Sasha and sort of demonstrate her range. So we had a number of performers come in for that album, but most notably Jesse Rio, who's the drummer in Tash Sultana's band.
Yes.
We've also incorporated
lovely guy.
He's the loveliest guy.
Lovely
Shout
guy.
out to Jesse Rio. Yeah, like a heavy use of pianos, of guitars, of course, horn sections, and yeah, a lot of percussion, Latin percussion as well as drums. It's a real masterpiece. I think we're going to be really, really proud of that one.
Look forward to it.
And looking forward to a few events from Sasha Miller. So,
yeah, she's got a few shows in the pipeline and EP launch, single launch, and
a great revival of Sasha Miller.
Love it.
Yeah,
love it. Let's touch on lounge room sessions. So I made it to the last one.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, there was something missing though. You did promise me a kazoo in the jam. Couldn't find that kazoo anywhere.
Yeah, our kazoo
I'm happy.
player was absent.
Yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, she was booked for another
Fair
event.
enough.
If you're wondering what the hell he's talking about, skip back 2 jam sessions. I think it's Ultimate Jams 2 on our YouTube, and you'll see said kazoo solo that Jeff missed and is still missing.
Maybe next time. So had Araminta, Ed Moon, Jay Jerome.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think I said something similar last week. I mean, I can't, there's not enough adjectives that I could find to describe those 3 singers.
Yeah.
They were brilliant. They were all different in their own special ways. There was also a sense of continuity also between them being different, if that makes sense. And
yeah, it does.
We touched on, in our previous pod about how you go about selecting the artists and the comment that stood out to me was, ultimately you want to be sitting there listening to these artists, and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
They were great.
Yeah, really happy with how last one came out. It was a bit of a risk in terms of the differences between them, but I guess that risk exists every month. And it comes down to programming. So, I got familiar with their recorded works.
Mm.
And I really thought about their own self descriptions and pieced it together like that, whether by fluke or by strategy. It worked really, really well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was great. And the
Thanks.
jam was a lot of fun to hear. I was going to say be part of. I wasn't part of it, but I was watching from afar, and it was it's such a special community that you're creating here, that artists can come along to both perform, and then I recognize a lot of the artists who had performed previously were in the room, just joining in on the jam.
Yeah.
When can you do that?
Nowhere else I know. We also had some good heavy hitters come in, producer Spike Leo, shout out to Spike Leo. Old childhood friend of mine turned up, joined the jam. We had also all three performers of the night join the jam together. So, it was cool to see after each of their respective performances. We had Araminta, we had Ed Moon, we had Jay Jerome, all share the stage together, along with a number of usual suspects from the jam. So, yeah, it came together really, really good.
So can we watch out for the next one? We got a date already, mid-Jan?
Yeah, the next Lounge Room sessions will be on the 17th of Jan.
Awesome.
Save the date. We're working on some big surprises. Whether we pull that off or not remains to be seen, but...
Got to aim big.
I'm feeling good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Looking forward to it. We've got links to the Lounge Room sessions up on YouTube in the show notes, along with all the posts from this pod.
Yep.
So please make sure you check it out. All right, going to move along to some industry news now. So firstly, on the Australian front to start with, so Creative Australia 4 times a year has a program called the Music Export Program.
Yeah.
What that's designed to do, it's designed to support both established and emerging artists in co-contributing to funds that can be used towards touring, music promotion in other cities, artistic development and audience development.
Yeah.
So they announced close to $1 million in funding this time around. There were some more established names, I'd say, that got funding this time. Boy and Bear, Folk Bitch Trio, which are an upcoming female trio.
Yeah.
Pierce Brothers, Stella Donnelly were a few. Keith Alexander was another. But there are a couple of young ones that jumped out at me. There was a rising South Sudanese Australian rapper called VV Pete.
Yep.
And there was also some artists who were working more in the market development, so not quite performing yet space, but to build their audiences. So in particular, why I mention this, I mean, obviously, money is a huge barrier to artists in the industry.
Maybe the biggest one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And particularly with touring. So what that will allow those artists to do is tour overseas, develop their market overseas, which can often, in most cases, lead to a bigger following in the market in Australia as well.
Yeah, well, it's clear that touring has really picked up again overseas. And I think it's really important that local artists are taking advantage of this initiative from Creative Australia. Obviously, like you said, overseas success reflects very well back home. But the truth of the matter is that the overseas market is way, way bigger.
Yep.
The ceiling is way higher for artists if they're able to break into overseas markets. So, yeah, I think that it's a really important initiative for artists to sort of get familiar with and get intimate with the details of.
Aussie artists they're in demand overseas, so that's a good start.
Yeah.
So dovetailing into the other side of things, which is the festival scene in overseas, it has really picked up again.
Yeah.
So Bonnaroo in particular, it's a festival that I had the pleasure of attending in the States about 10 years ago now. Awesome festival. They've booked, one of their headliners is Rufus Du Sol.
Yeah.
Amel and the Sniffers are playing there.
Yeah.
Tash Sultana's playing there.
Yeah.
The idea behind the Creative Australia grants that they've been running for quite a few cycles now is to get artists, over there and work on that demand.
Yeah.
What I'm really hoping to see is that impact comes back to Australia for Australian festivals. This time of the year, I always used to look forward to the big day out.
Yeah.
Falls Festival, the end of the year.
Yeah.
Middle of the year, Splendor in the Grass. They're all festivals no longer around anymore. Do you think that there's any way that we're going to get back to some form of heyday where we are going to be going to these big scale festivals in Australia?
Yeah, I think we will. I think that when you've been around long enough, you see the rise of and fall of festivals
Very true.
as a wave. Like I said, it is
Yeah.
picking up overseas, and I think that, like many trends, watching the overseas market is a good indicator of things to come locally. It's true for fashion. It's true for music in terms of tastes and genres, and I think it'll be the same for festivals. I think you have a number of notable emerging local festival producers and touring operators, people like Untitled Group, people like Parade Touring, that are really pushing the limits in terms of production, in terms of the artists that they're bringing, expanding beyond. And those two examples started off in the electronic genres, but have expanded out to, world-class touring artists. So I think it's important that, these initiatives keep coming through, that government agencies are providing support for these kind of operators, not just financial support, but also bureaucratic support, and making it not too hard to run an event.
That's really the key.
Yeah, which I know was a big part of the fall of a lot of these festivals. Establishing good venues for these festivals and good infrastructure to allow the huge number of people to go in and out of these venues efficiently and safely, which, I know is also a reason behind the fall of some of these festivals is, lack of safe operations.
Yep.
And sometimes it's limited not by the promoter's desire to ensure that safety or spend money on that safety, but it's limited by infrastructure. I think the last notable one is the incredible burden that's put on festivals these days, large-scale festivals, in terms of the cost of police.
Absolutely. Police and security and all the essential services.
Especially police.
Yeah.
And the reason being is both the requirement for the number of police on top of private security operators, as well as the exorbitant rate that promoters are paying for these police. And I say exorbitant because there's such a disparity from state to state.
Right.
Yet these policemen or women are being paid the same amounts in each state. And I know of certain festival promoters I've spoken to who are actively avoiding running shows in certain states because the difference in the amount they need to spend on provisions of police is it just drives them out of business.
No, look, that's crazy, and I hope that something like that can be overcome, because that would be the worst barrier to not having a festival on.
The problem is it looks like a money grab.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say you need police and you need a certain number of police. I don't think any promoter with any sensibility would dispute the fact that we do need a police presence at these festivals for a number of reasons, all of them obvious, but it still needs to be accessible. Even to the extent I would argue that it should be subsidized. We've basically killed an economy to get a few extra tax dollars in, and I think that it's self-defeating.
Look, my wish is still for the big day out to come back one year, and if that could happen, great. But look, I would love to see the rebirth of festivals in Australia.
I think we all would.
As an artist manager, it was always my aim for artists to, before even talking about getting into solo shows, was to get into festival shows, use that captive audience that are there already and that are going to find you. You need, a small selection of those people who are already there watching an artist that they want to see, finding you, hearing about you, and then they're going to be following you. They're going to be listening to you. Yeah. So look, highly recommend for any artists, any creatives out there who don't get the Creative Australia newsletter, to sign up and get it and hear about the grants that come out and apply for them. And then don't get dejected. Just keep reapplying every quarter that they come out, and they go a long way to being able to support your art.
On that point, I mean, I would say to any artist who's aspiring or any artist full stop, is get used to rejection. It's a part of the deal. And any artist I know that succeeded can tell you a long story, a long list of their rejections along the way.
Yep. And how few responses they get to those hundreds of emails they send out, but you've just got to do it. You've got to persist. Got to keep hustling. Keep hustling. All right, we don't have any releases to talk about that are coming out this week, but I did just want to take the opportunity to just touch on a track that each of us are really just enjoying right now. So Dan, is there a track or an artist that has really got you going right now?
Yeah, I listened this week to Rosalia's album.
Yeah.
I can't tell you of any track specifically that, really, there were a few tracks that spoke to me, but I think that the album's really interesting because it's been a while, I think, since a mainstream artist has brought like a real authentic world music feel to a mainstream record. And I think that's been done really great with Rosalia's album. Really interesting blend of modern production techniques on things like the vocals, traditional production techniques on things like the instrumentation. And, it blends together. I think a big key to its success, apart from its, the quality of the music, the songs, the performance, is just that unique sort of X factor to the album. The other artist that I got a really interesting demo of was, well, it's not a demo, it's a release, but I got demoed at our friend's Synth Temple. They have a Dolby Atmos studio.
Wow.
Now, I'm against Dolby Atmos for music.
I have heard you say this, yes.
Yeah, because I believe in the sound stage being in front of you. But I heard Jacob Collier's Bridge Over Troubled Water in Dolby Atmos, and it was produced especially for Dolby Atmos. I was sitting with our studio manager, aka Chief Steez Officer, aka Shanice, and I looked at her at the end of the song and she just had tears running down her face.
Yeah, wow.
As a sensory experience, it was unlike anything I've ever heard. And, if you haven't seen Synth Temple and you're an artist, I highly recommend you check it out. They're in Kew.
We'll throw a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll throw a link in there. It's an amazing space, and that Dolby Atmos room is an amazing place to listen to music.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. How about you?
The track that I can't stop listening to, I mentioned this one to you a few months ago, is Ray's Where Is My Husband?
Yeah.
It is just such an incredible track. I heard it the first time. I watched some footage of Glastonbury back in July. She was on probably late afternoon. It was really like bright, so you didn't have the element of, darkness and lights and everything. She had a full band. She had a brass section. She had a horn section. It's just an incredible track. But the thing I love about it most is that it's got this very Supremes element to part of it. Yeah. The video clip's amazing. I've actually followed up and I've watched a few performances she's done. A lot of the American TV of Fallon and a lot of the late night shows. And each performance she's done, she's had a slightly different way of performing the track. And each time it just gets you. Like, she's such a solid performer, but she's someone who, if I go to a performance, I would like to think that the artist is playing me that track for the first time.
Yeah.
Never heard it before.
Yeah.
And so she's doing this thing where, like, she is both acknowledging that she's got an audience that have probably heard this track before.
Yeah.
But she's doing the opposite and just giving them something different, even though they've heard this track before. It's done amazingly well. I mean, it's been top of the charts everywhere, but it's an incredible track. It's a great reference track for artists that come through the studio.
Absolutely.
And I just really love that angle of being able to present your musicality in a way that isn't consistent every time you play it.
Well, I think on the musicality point, what's really interesting with Ray is that she was a songwriter for so many years.
Yes, lots of songwriting credits and on a whole lot of tracks you probably would never have thought that she would have.
Yeah, and that even I know that there were barriers put in her way of becoming a star in her own right. Yep. And now she's broken through as a star. Yep. And so I think that
as an independent star too, I must add. So there's another one for everyone who's thinking, I need a massive support group behind me. I mean, you need the right people in your corner. I always say that, but you don't necessarily need to be signed to a big label to have the world at your feet. Yeah.
And I think that her musicality is shining through in all the performances that she's doing. I think that's why she's taking the world by storm is, she's kind of the full package in terms of, performer, artist, writer.
Songwriter, yep.
It's a real great thing to see. And I think you don't get that very often in the pop mainstream space. That's a like once a decade kind of thing.
Agreed.
And I think, you know, we may find ourselves in 10 years looking back and saying she's the artist of the decade in the mainstream.
Big call. Big call. I
Big
love it.
call.
Love it. All right. Renee Naccari's in the building. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Renee, tell us a bit about yourself before we kick things off.
Well, my name's Renee, obviously. I'm a singer-songwriter from Melbourne, Australia. I've recently just taken a little pivot with my musical journey. Rather than going into the alt pop R&B, I've moved into more of a dark pop, hyper pop era. And yeah, I've been super excited with all my releases recently, which is more reflective on my current stage of life and what I've experienced. It's more freeing.
Awesome. So let's dive into that a bit further. So talking about recent releases, obviously I had the pleasure of working on both Destructive and Obsessive with you on those. Tell us a bit about the backstory firstly with Destructive and how that came to be.
It's like an introspective piece where you're kind of toying with the light and the dark versions of yourself, but rather than the light and the dark, we kind of decided that it was like the red and the black, like the red side, which isn't light, it's still like a bit, you know, on the edge, and then the black side, which is darker. And at the start, it kind of plays with the words to make you think that I'm actually talking about a lover, a female lover actually. But then when you listen to the song, it actually gets more into like I'm talking to myself.
Right.
And
flips the script a little bit.
It flips the script, yeah. And the first chorus is coming from like the red personality, and the second chorus, the first verse is the red personality, second verse is the black personality, and then they come together.
Wow. So a lot of themes there. And I mean, talking about it more from a musicality standpoint, how do you choose the balance between, you know, the restraint in your vocals and in the sound, and then making it into more of that, that hyper pop, that moving into the, you know, the Charlie XCX and Kesha and those sorts of artists? How do you find that balance? Because obviously you've got a big range in your sound, but did you come to the studio with that fully fledged out? Did that really start to become that sound when you were here, or how did that come to be?
I kind of had a smaller idea when I came to the studio, so I kind of just had a verse and a chorus. And then as we fleshed out the song with Josh and Nev and Dan, it developed from there, and we created a story altogether. So they also helped with the lyrics on the second verse. I knew that I wanted there to be like a little dance break in there, because I still wanted it to have that dark pop element, the kind of like almost a bit Lady Gaga, but then also flip it to like a dance song at the end. So still having both of those genres connected. And I guess creating the balance, I think with the album that I'm working on, Provocative Mood Swings, which is highlighting the ups and downs of life and like the dramatic differences, I think having some songs being super high energy and some songs lower energy or darker energy is like there's a purpose to it, I guess, rather than having a balance. And then the album kind of goes from like really, really high energy to like still high energy but dark. And yeah.
So along with the theme of Obsessive, firstly, I want to touch on the branding. So you had a $ there in the Obsessive title. What's the meaning behind that? Is that tied into the lyrics of the track? Is that just to make the track stand out more? What was the thinking and the stylization there? What was the thought pattern there?
I was like, how can I make this? I can't say that word. How can I make this more like slay? You know?
Okay.
More like as obnoxious. I was like, how can I make this more obnoxious? Capital letters. $. You know, considering that the music video is filmed in a mansion and it's all about.
I was just going to say a bit of a metaphor for life, and good segue. You just touched on the video clip. So awesome video clip for Obsessive. Well done. We'll pop a link in the notes for that. How did that one come to be? I mean, that was just a super fun. It's one of those clips. Like, I mean, I've loved video clips forever, but often you see a clip and you don't sometimes think twice about it. Your one I saw, I'm like, wow, I don't even know if you just were having so much fun that you just forgot you were making a video clip, but it came out just awesome. How did that come to be? Who was in that clip? Tell us about the process.
Well, it definitely was fun the whole time. Like there was not one boring moment of that shoot.
Yeah, you can tell.
The idea I kind of had the idea since I was writing the song. Like I already pictured as I write songs, I tend to visualize the song as I'm writing it. Like when I'm writing a song, how would a music video look to this, which helps me create more lyric wise. So the idea was already in my head, and then I spoke to my friends, like Jax that works at and then they put together a mood board and we all fleshed it out together. And I had a bunch of friends in my music video, and I had a few casts of the Aussie Shore members. So I had Katia and Rihanna from Aussie Shore, and that was definitely fun. They definitely added heaps of character to the video. But yeah, we had fun the whole time, especially the second day in the pool, pushing off like the guys in the pool and spraying them with water guns. Like it was the best.
Love it. So let's talk about 2026 now. What's the plan? What's in store? More music, I imagine. Shows, anything exciting you can talk about?
There's definitely some exciting stuff in the pipeline. Cool. And what I can talk about is my music coming out. So I'm looking to release my next studio album in May.
Have we got a title yet?
Yeah, Provocative Mood Swings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's
cool title, cool title.
Yeah. That's a album that reflects the highs and lows of life, and it kind of touches on, or supposed to emulate how I've experienced my mood swings since I've got or struggled with BPD. And so it goes from an intense high with Obsessive all the way to a song called Delirium, which is kind of like a punk pop rock, like Paramore vibes.
Yep.
Paramore,
can't wait to
not
do that.
Evanescence, but like Paramore, you know, Veronica's. So it goes really high to really dark. And it kind of just takes you through a journey. My other album was more like it takes you through a love story, whereas this is supposed to take your emotions from one end of the scale to the other end of the scale.
Wow.
All through it.
Sounds awesome. And what about shows, performances, plans around there?
Well, I'm hoping to put a few releases out next year. So hopefully a few shows with those releases and some awesome supporting artists. And then I'm looking to do a bunch of gigs in Melbourne and Sydney throughout the year, especially trying to build up my audience in Sydney.
Yep.
And then continue building up my audience on TikTok and Instagram and so forth. Yeah.
We'll have links to all of Renee's stuff in the notes. So yeah, make sure that you follow her, get along to her shows, listen to her music. To close, I just wanted to ask, so we've spoken a lot about, you know, you've done music, you've done visuals, also understand you're getting involved in the songwriting side of things. Is that something that you're looking to do, you know, more and more? I'm a big believer in artists like in doing collaborations, because it opens you up to audiences that you might not have otherwise tapped into, whether it's in a different genre than the one that you're operating in, or whether it's just an audience that might not have heard you but follow another particular artist. It's just a great way of expanding out your reach and reaching new audiences. So can you tell us a bit about the songwriting you've been doing and what's in store for that? So
I did a songwriting camp last year, and it was really, really fun. It kind of consolidated what I wanted to do with my music. It showed me that I can work with multiple genres, and it's like another streamline of music that I can get into. So I'm definitely looking for more people to collaborate with, more people to co-write with, to help younger artists. I've got a student of mine, or an old student of mine from when I did vocal teaching, that I'm currently mentoring to write her first release and release it. So that's been heaps of fun. We actually worked on it today. So just trying to collaborate with many artists, whether it's top lines with DJs or fleshing out an entire song with someone new. It's just so much fun and I enjoy it. So that's my like little side passion for my other project.
That's awesome. Well, good luck for 2026. Looking
you.
Forward to seeing what becomes of it. And this has been Renee on For The Record.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening and watching For The Record. And we hope to be speaking to you again very soon.